All right. Afternoon, everyone. I am meteorologist Griffin Hardy, and I am here to talk about Hurricane Ida as it now churns in the Gulf of Mexico. We just now had the 4 p.m. advisory come in. The time right now is 3:53 Central Time, and we'll break it down for you. Looks like the max winds have increased by 5 miles per hour since the previous advisory that came out at 1 p.m. Central Time earlier today. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. Looks like we've got some people tuning in now. Okay. I'll give everybody a second to get situated here. Usually I have a hard time reading the comments when we're going live at the same time. So I'll try to answer any questions that come in after the fact. After we get done with this live, I'll scroll through and try to answer some questions if I can. But for the meantime, let's get started. Okay, so Hurricane Ida, now a Category 2 storm, winds of 105 miles per hour. This is the latest advisory that just came in from the National Hurricane Center, still moving northwest at 16 miles per hour. That's pretty strong, or excuse me, pretty quick for a tropical cyclone. That's the good news from this, if anything, that Ida will be moving pretty quickly through the Gulf of Mexico. Here's the satellite radar view showing those outer bands of rain that are kind of closing in on the panhandle of Florida, much of Alabama, Mississippi. There are those outer bands that you see right there. Eye of the storm is right now about 325 miles southeast of Houma, Louisiana, which is just southwest of New Orleans. So it's got roughly about 250 to 300 miles left before it makes its expected landfall in South Louisiana tomorrow. And it's going to continue right up that northwestern track eventually before it makes landfall in South Louisiana. I want to show you this, the 1-minute satellite imagery. We get a better idea of the storm when it's out at sea using satellite imagery. The colder those cloud tops, the stronger the thunderstorms that we see out there. And a lot of that convection is really strong on the southwestern side. You can see that little bit of clearing right there in the center. That's the eye of the storm. And again, the southwestern side is where all those strongest thunderstorms are. And over the next few hours, that convection should wrap around the center just like that. And we'll see it kind of gain intensity because all of the ocean temperatures right now in the Gulf are running something like 86 to 87 degrees. That's really warm, even for the Gulf. Anything that's above 80 degrees Fahrenheit favors intensification, and we're already kind of seeing that as expected. I know we've been talking about it the past couple of days, and now it's starting to play out as it now gains strength in the Gulf. Here's the latest forecast track from the National Hurricane Center. No big shift in the overall track. It's still expected kind of just west of the just southwest of the mouth of the Mississippi River where this storm is going to make landfall. I would say that it kind of looks like the timing might have sped up a little bit in terms of landfall. Now it kind of looks like more Sunday afternoon rather than Sunday evening. And then as it continues to come in, it's going to pass right over top of Baton Rouge, while New Orleans stays on the eastern right-hand side of the storm where all the heavy rain is. Granted, the winds may not be as strong in New Orleans, but you're still going to get a ton of excessive rainfall because you have those onshore winds coming off the Gulf. So that's really going to exacerbate the flooding that they have in such a low-lying area like New Orleans. Let's talk about the watches and warnings that we have right now. This is important to break down because it kind of helps give everybody a better idea, everybody who's in the path of this thing, of what to expect. So there is a hurricane warning in effect for New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Slidell, Lafayette, and Franklin, everybody south of I-10 pretty much included in that hurricane warning. That means that hurricane conditions are likely over the next sometime within the next 36 hours. That means 74 plus mile per hour winds, some storm surge, some freshwater flooding, some flash flooding, and certainly some power outages too. And then when you move farther inland, you've got tropical storm warnings in effect for South Mississippi, Southeast Mississippi, towards the Mississippi Gulf Coast. That includes Pascagoula, Gulfport, Bay St. Louis, Picayune, Wiggins, Lucedale. Same story. That means tropical storm conditions are imminent within the next 36 hours. That means 39 plus mile per hour winds, flash flooding, maybe a few spin-up tornadoes, and that'll be our main concern in central Alabama, is should we potentially run into a few spin-up tornadoes. I want to show you this, okay, the better highlight of the hurricane warning. So going from roughly Jennings, Louisiana, all the way over to Slidell. That's all the entire corridor of the hurricane warning. Farther south of that, it's all hurricane warning down towards the actual coast. And then the hurricane warnings stop at the Mississippi-Louisiana state lines. Everywhere north of that, it turns into tropical storm warnings like we see here. Jackson, Mississippi, included in a tropical storm watch. That means tropical storm conditions are possible within the next 36 to 48 hours. Something to be mindful of, that even this far inland, we could get winds on the order of 35, 40 miles per hour. And also a storm surge warning. This includes all of Lake Pontchartrain, all of Lake Borgne, the Mississippi Gulf Coast. They're going to get a lot of storm surge as the winds come onshore, again, on that eastern side of the storm. All of that Gulf of Mexico water is going to get shoved in by these really strong winds. So we can talk a little bit more about that as well. Here is our in-house product. This is our storm surge forecast. We are able to kind of show in high resolution where exactly the worst of the storm surge will be. And everything that you see in red, that's 9 feet of surge or higher. And that's going to be possible near places like Houma, Louisiana, even though it's not immediately on the coast. You know, you've got a lot of low-lying swamp there. So storm surge could definitely be a big problem that they have to deal with. Sorry for that little jump there. I'll go back to it here. So much of New Orleans and Lake Pontchartrain, they'll get around 6 to 9 feet of surge. That orange contour is not showing up all that well. It takes a little bit of time for this data to load. But you see there, even at the mouth of the Pearl River, east of Slidell, they could see potentially over 9 feet of storm surge in some spots. That's noteworthy. You know, anything above just 1 or 2 feet is enough to be a pretty big problem, even for folks that are immediately along the coast. Then you move a little bit farther to the west, and the storm surge amounts still look really high near places like Houma and Morgan City. Granted, you do have a lot of swamp here that kind of helps to act like a barrier, protecting a lot of Louisiana from a lot of the surge, but New Orleans, you know, they've got Lake Pontchartrain right there. They've got Lake Borgne and all of those areas that are not immediately protected by the levee system. They could certainly see a lot of flooding from the storm surge that comes in. So that's the latest with that. Let me take you through the FUTURECAST, another in-house product that we have here at CBS 42. This shows the storm and time. All of those little lines there are pressure lines, and every different line you see is a difference of 2 millibars. So when those pressure lines get tighter together, that shows a greater change in pressure over distance. In other words, stronger winds, you know. Air moves from high to low pressure, and when the difference between two areas is greater, then the winds are stronger. And that is what you're looking at whenever you see all these lines showing up whenever we have a hurricane on our computer model there. So our in-house model has landfall roughly, you know, late afternoon, early evening. It'll be more like probably 5, 6 o'clock in the evening when it looks like Ida comes ashore. I've got the scrubber pulled up so I can manipulate the time a little bit better. But here you see, look at New Orleans right here. So New Orleans, while they're not going to get the absolute worst of the winds, they're going to get the worst of the rainfall, I think, because watch how that rain just keeps coming and coming and coming, right? Right as you see those onshore winds come in. The rain's going to be nonstop, it looks like, on that right-hand side of the storm as the winds stay out of the south, heading into Monday morning. Then it starts to gradually move inland. The center of the storm passes right over Alexandria, Louisiana, Monday morning. And then a lot of those tropical storm impacts start to move into Mississippi, heading into Monday afternoon and especially Monday evening, with the core of the storm moving right along the Mississippi River, or just west of the Mississippi River, Monday evening. Then you head into Tuesday, and for those of you watching in central Alabama, it looks now more like Monday night and Tuesday will probably be when we see the worst of the impacts, mostly in the form of flash flooding and mostly in the form of possibly some tropical storm force winds. Again, that'll mostly be Monday night, starting Monday night and lasting until around Tuesday night. For over a 24-hour period, we'll have to be on guard for flash flooding and, of course, possibly a few spin-up tornadoes. We'll have these bands of tropical rainfall, and within any of those bands, if any of those cells get a little bit of rotation in them, there's a chance that they could drop a very brief tornado. So we'll have to watch for that, mostly, again, on Tuesday. Want to show you this, the wind gusts with time. So tomorrow morning, that's when Ida will be just barely nudging ashore, and then you get into Saturday afternoon, those wind gusts really pick up in Houma, Louisiana, all the way up to around 50, 60 miles per hour at that point. And then the center of the storm starts to move inland. So again, check out New Orleans. Even though the winds will be at around tropical storm force most of the time, the winds aren't going to be the big problem. It's mostly going to be the flooding that they have to deal with the rainfall totals probably on the order of 10 to 15 inches. That's a really high amount. That's at least what our latest FUTURECAST is showing. I'll pull that up real fast so you can get an idea of where all the rainfall is going to be. And there it is. Everything that you see in purple there is 6 inches or higher. So again, all of the New Orleans area, all of Baton Rouge especially, they'll get probably the worst of the weather starting tomorrow night and lasting into Monday morning. So that's the latest right now. Once again, Ida is now a Category 2 hurricane. It's rapidly strengthening, so eventually it's going to be either a Category 3 or a Category 4 by the time it makes landfall. Exactly which one it is doesn't really make that much of a difference. I mean, the impacts are basically going to be the same, whether or not it's a 3 or a 4. Flash flooding being the biggest problem across most of the impacted area, although the wind speeds will be pretty strong for folks immediately along the Louisiana coast, as well as the storm surge. That'll be the biggest problem. Another fact to throw out for you, 80% of hurricane fatalities are water related and not the wind. So, which is why we try to focus as much as possible on the rainfall and the storm surge with the hurricane that's coming in. I want to show you this real quick as well, the excessive rainfall risk. This is a Weather Prediction Center product. This helps to highlight where the highest risk of flooding is going to be. Tomorrow, it's centered right over I-10 and I-12, the Lake Pontchartrain, Lake Bourne area from Baton Rouge to New Orleans. Then you move farther inland, and there's still a moderate risk for Macomb, Bogalusa, Lafayette, all the way up to Hattiesburg, roughly speaking, is where they have a moderate risk of flooding for tomorrow. That's 3 out of 4, moderate being 3 out of 4. And here's the latest severe weather outlook. That tornado threat for Monday looks like it'll be across much of eastern Mississippi and west Alabama. If you're watching us here in central Alabama, it looks like the western half of the area has the best chance of maybe seeing a few spin-up tornadoes. Obviously, we'll need to fine-tune that forecast. It's just a possibility to look out for now. So, detailed tropical threats for those of you watching here in central Alabama. 3 to 7 inches is what we're looking at for most of the area. Once again, those highest amounts will be in west Alabama. So places like Fayette, Tuscaloosa, Hamilton, Moundville, places like that. You guys will probably get the most rainfall out of anybody on the higher end of that range. So we're talking, 5, 6 inches near places like Tuscaloosa. Flooding, streams, creeks, and local rivers, they could definitely run into a couple of issues. And if there is a risk of tornadoes at the moment, like I just showed you, it'll be west of I-65 for us. And those winds could get strong on the order of 20 to 40 miles per hour, but there's a really low chance that we see anything higher than 50 here in central Alabama. Still gonna get pretty nasty Monday, Tuesday, but certainly not as ludicrously strong as it will be on the coast, for lack of a better word. So that's the latest so far. I will be back in on the CBS 42 News at 6 with the latest update for you then. Be sure to tune in. Again, you can download the free CBS 42 News app for more updates and information. So until then, till 6 o'clock Central Time, I'll see you later on this evening. Have a great night, everybody.